are you can bring morale up within the company, and also you know their previous work performance. But there are benefits of hiring externally as well, such as bringing in diversity. So the interviewing process can be expensive and quite difficult. There are different forms of interview. You have your traditional interview, which is just the hiring manager and the person. You may have the panel interview, which is several people interviewing the person, a group interview in which there's multiple candidates, and sometimes even a meal interview. So some situational questions that may be asked during the interview are, if you were in a situation and you saw someone was stealing from the company, how would you handle this? Another situational question could be, if you didn't agree with the way your manager was handling something, what would you do? And then behavioral questions are something such as, how would you handle a difficult customer? However, there are questions that are off limits. An example of this would be asking about their age, race, nationality. Also asking if they belong to any particular organizations can be illegal, as this may be personal and not really relate to the job position being applied for. So the first question that is often asked in the interview is, tell me about yourself. This is challenging as it's different than the behavioral question, and you should just focus on your recent work experience and the strengths that you have that you can bring to the job. And so a lot of people worry about this one, but if you practice it, it doesn't have to be that bad. There's also testing involved in the interviewing process. So sometimes they give you a cognitive ability test, which will test your knowledge and ability. Some positions require a physical test. And then there's also the Big Five, which is also known as the canoe model, and this has things such as openness and extroversion. So sometimes companies use references, and this is just to verify the information that was already provided for them. They also may talk to a previous work employer, and that can help them learn about your attendance or your job performance. And then they use social media, especially LinkedIn, to check if your information is correct and if you had anything negative on there. So there are various forms of the selection method. The critical selection method involves everyone that's interviewing and making the selection process, and then the statistical method gives things a certain weight. So if it's important for a person to know how to use computer programming, they may weight that a lot higher than how they dress for the interview. And then lastly would be the job offer. So before this process, you should have asked certain questions, such as when would you be able to accept the position, and then you have to consider the going wages and the scarcity of skills, and then you can actually offer them the position. After this, you should allow them to negotiate with you, as they may need time to make the decision. So how would this look in our grocery store? If I was hiring a cashier, I would need to consider the critical requirements for them. So they may need to have customer service skills, they may need to know how to operate the cash register, and then once this is done, I can review all the resumes and look for these requirements. So then after I've selected a few, I can conduct interviews. I will be doing a structured interview in which I ask them a question such as, how would you handle a difficult customer? And then I will check their references and check their social media accounts. If there's anything inappropriate, I may not want to hire them. And then lastly, I can offer them this position. So as it is a cashier position, it's part-time. So I do not need to cover like the benefits with them or anything like that, as we don't offer that. And then the position will be $11 an hour. And I need to make sure they can work nights and weekends, as that was one of the requirements. So a personal experience was, I used to work at DSW, so I got to experience the interviewing process there. It was kind of held like a panel interview, since I had the assistant manager and the general store manager interview me, and they asked me both situational and behavioral questions. And then one of the questions that they asked me, which was a little bit off, was, if you were a shoe, what would you be? To which I responded, a flip-flop, which I thought was kind of strange, but I said I liked the summer and the beach, and I think they just kind of asked that question to throw you off and see how you'll respond, so they're not really gaining anything other than your reaction. So that is basically everything for selection process. So again, you'll want to, oh, I forgot about this slide, sorry. So another experience I had was with the recruiting. I recently went to the Rowan Job Fair, and so I got to see employers try and sell their company to me, and then in return I had to sell them myself through showing them my resume and going over the key skills that I had. Okay, so for the selection, you have your critical development, your application and resume review, interviews, test administration, the selection, and of course the offer. So up next is Max, and he's going to talk about training and development.
So, as Alicia just stated, I'm Max. Today I'm going to be talking about training and development. And today I'm going to be talking about all the key aspects of training and development, what training is, what development is, the stages of how you train and develop each employee. And I'm also going to discuss how we've talked about the grocery store, how we would train the cashier and develop them into becoming a long-time employee, and also my experiences within training and development in my personal life. So first we're going to talk about training. Training is job-related knowledge, skills, and behavior that you must have for the job you were hired for. So what training is, it's when you're hired for the position and to make sure that they want to get you ready for the position you're hired for. So they'll do what means necessary to get you ready for that position at hand that only you were hired for. So first, this is the steps they use in the instructional design. And the steps are they assess the needs for the training, they ensure the readiness for the training, they plan the training program that they need, they implement the training, they evaluate the results, and then the feedback. So these are the major stages that they use when training an employee. I'm going to go into further detail about all of these. So the first step is the needs assessment. And what they do for this is for the organization, they think about how will the training occur, what will the actual training be. They also look at the person of who needs the training and what type of training they need based upon their behavior and their actions. And the other thing is the task is what should the training cover. So what are they already prepared in and what training should they use. So the next aspect is the person analysis, and this is actually about the person as they are. How ready are they for the training, and what methods should they need? So for this step, they kind of use personality tests and other sort of things to see where they are as a person and what would benefit them most for the training aspect that they need, because every person is different, so everyone needs a different type of training method that they'll have to go through. So the types of training, there's three types, and you can go through formal classes, computer-based, and mentoring. So a formal class could be, and computer-based could be anything from an Excel class or anything like that where you just learn more, but the thing they were talking about is one-on-one mentoring, and this could be from a week to a month long where you kind of just follow the person and you learn from them, you sit with them, you go to meetings and all of that stuff just to learn about the business better. So now look at the results. When the training's all over, they look at the trainee satisfaction, the return on investment, performance, improvements, and the new skills. So this is just when they look back at it, they see did the new employee learn anything? What have they picked up from the training, and what new aspect can they bring to the table when they're actually hired that they did not know before? So another thing they look at is the feedback, and this is for the employee. So when they do this, it's for the organization to know what they did right and what they did wrong. So they ask questions like, how was the mentor? Did you learn anything from them? What would you do differently? So they just want to learn about how their training was, that if they need to change anything, and how they actually learn from it. So the next thing is development. Development is a little different than from training because it's future-oriented. This helps you gain skills that you do not have at the current position, and it prepares you for other jobs. So this could be something for hiring from within, which companies like to do. So if you're X position, they train you for a different position. They develop you for a different position that you're not already qualified for. So the approaches that they take for this are interpersonal relationships, formal education, job experience, and assessment. Again, I'm going to go into further detail about all of these, but these are the 4 steps they use to develop their employees to one day take different positions within the company than what they do right now at their current position, which could be a cashier, and one day they want to develop them to be something else. So these are steps they take. So the first thing is they assess the employee. So what this is they assess them at their current position and learn about them and what they do well at the position and what they don't do well. So then they can look at them and see what development they need, what type of process they need to be developed for the new job that the employee wants them to have. And during the assessment, again, they need to learn more about them and what they've learned from their position. Another thing is job experience, and this could be the job experience they have at their current job or past jobs. A big thing they do for this is job rotation, and what they do for this is they let the person, let's say again they're a cashier, and they let them do all different types of positions so that they get to learn which position they like the best and are the best at and could become one day in the company that fits them. The other thing is interpersonal relationships. There's 2 types of these. It's mentoring and coaching. And mentoring is more of you follow a senior employee who's more developed than you, and they help experience you. So that could be even from whatever you are to the CFO of the company, and you learn from them and you follow them. And coaching is just a peer or employee who helps you motivate the other employees and get you ready. So now going back to our company for training the cashier, what I think the best thing we do is actually have a mentoring. So I know it's just a cashier and most people know what they're doing, but you would sit behind them for 2 weeks and learn what they do, fight through the problems, understand everything that they go through on a day-to-day basis, how to deal with long lines and computer breakdowns and all of that stuff, so you understand what to do in those situations if they occur. The next step is developing the cashier, And this could be, what a good strategy would I think would be the job rotation, because you could have them be the cashier, and other days you could have them stocking shelves and doing all sorts of things like that, so they understand every single side of the business. Because if they understand every single side of the business, one day they'll be able to do any sort of job that's at hand that they are asked to do. Because you always want to hire from within. So by developing this employee from the cashier to maybe one day developing them to be, they could one day work in the corporate, but by understanding every single level, they'll be able to do the best that they can. And by during the developing, they're going to go through all different types of testing and all that sort of thing to understand where they will best fit to one day take promotions to maybe be a store manager, or, like I said, potentially work in the corporate. So for my personal experience, I was an intern at Party City, and for my training, it was a week-long training, and I had 2 sessions in the corporate office and 2 in New York. And for what they made me do for this is they took personality tests, and they scheduled me with the best mentor I could. So they fit me in. I had to take Excel classes and all sorts of different classes to get me as best prepared for this as I could. So they actually did develop me. I actually received a job offer from them, and during my development, I got to sit in on meetings with high-level employees. I had to do presentations from the CEO, the CFO about budget reports. I had to give presentations about the new digital marketing plan. I had to give presentations about all of that. So their development was very good for me, and I learned a lot. So just kind of going over it, their training development was very good for me. It really taught me a lot because it got me ready for all sorts of things. Doing presentations in front of 50-year-old CEOs and all of that really got me ready for all other things like that. So really helped doing presentations like that. Just all sorts of things, doing budgets, reports, balances every day. Really got me ready for the real world. So just to recap on training and development, it's a very important aspect of HR planning, and it gets the employees ready for the future of the business and betters them. So next is compensation with Matthew, the Caesar. Wow.
All right, so I'll be talking about compensation. I think it's pretty obvious that compensation is a key aspect to HR planning. After all, we work to get paid, and we should also be mindful that it's a major part of an organization's budget. All right, so I'm going to start with the goals of a compensation plan. First being to attract employees. You want to be, it's competitive to attract employees. You really want to make your compensation plans lucrative to attract the best talent. Because if you have the best talent, then the job performance will be better, and if you don't, the performance of the company will suffer. And to retain employees. It's just important to retain employees than to attract them. Employees need the opportunities to grow and move forward in the company, and to improve morale, motivation, and satisfaction. Happy employees will want to stay with the company, and it'll improve their motivation to work hard and contribute. And determining compensation. It's important to ask, what is fair? A lot of times it's based on performance or seniority, and whether or not it should be based upon a pay scale where you know exactly where you're going to be starting out and where you're going to be going, or if on an individual, if it's individually negotiated, you have to be mindful of if it's fair throughout the entire company. And factors affecting compensation. 62% of companies have a written and documented compensation plan. Some companies follow a market plus or a market minus philosophy, and what that means is your job offer will basically be based on the average salary, and it will give you a percentage plus or minus that average salary for that job. An example of this is Cisco. The technology industry is highly competitive and changes rapidly. So Cisco has high salaries so that they attract the best talent, and compare that to competition. An example of a market minus company is Whole Foods, and the executives get paid 19 times the average wage of a regular employee. They believe that if they made hundreds of times that of the average employee, that this would ruin the social fabric of a company. and I think that's admirable personally. Other internal factors are the ability of the company to pay and afford to